And without further ado, it is my pleasure to welcome our keynote presenter for today. We are so pleased to be joined by Deborah Cullinan, Vice President for the Arts at Stanford University. She's a seasoned arts and culture leader who has spent years mobilizing communities through arts and culture. And joined Stanford University in early 2022 as the first full-time Vice President for the Arts. Previously, she was CEO of Yerba Buena Center of the Arts, where she launched several new bold programs, engagement strategies, and civic collaborations. She's also served on the San Francisco Economic Recovery Task Force and on Governor Newsom's Task Force on Business and Jobs Recovery. Her work is focused on integrating art and creativity into the infrastructure of our communities. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're looking forward to your presentation.
Well, before we jump in to talk about the ways that artists work and the impact that work can have in our lives, I want to start by grounding us in the transformative power of the arts and what is possible when we understand the consequential impact that art and creativity can have in our communities and our economies. It's no secret that we live in challenging and complicated times. And we need creative tools and imaginative ways of understanding one another and the challenges that we face. We also need to stay grounded in our principles, in what we believe in, and what we care about in the world that we're striving for. And even we need to do that even when it is hard, and we are asked or forced even to shift. So I wanted to share with you, I was in a conversation a few days ago, and a very wise person said that the practice of engaging with art is the practice of engaging with our principles. Because we start by taking it in, we're provoked to see things in new and different ways, and we slow down to understand what this means for us. We're moved, we're instructed, we're inspired, and we are grounded in our own value system. So as you move through these couple of days, I hope you'll think about the concept of engaging with art as a practice of engaging with our principles, even when it's hard. And because this is how I feel, because we know what it means to be transfixed, transformed by a single work of art, by experiencing a performance in community, because we know how transformative it can be, I think we have an obligation to assure that everyone, no matter who they are, has access to art that is meaningful and relevant to them. And I think when it makes sense, we have an obligation to apply that transformative power to the collective good. So what does this mean for us as we're talking about our creative ecosystem and art and the economy and our creative workforce? It means that art in all shapes and forms matters, and that artists, perhaps the original gig workers, can be employed in many different ways in service of our collective imagination and the public good. So much of what I really want to talk with you all about today is about imagining a world where we invest in artists and art is integrated into the infrastructure of our communities. So I love this quote from the book Indomitable Spirit. When learning is purposeful, creativity blossoms. When creativity blossoms, thinking emanates. When thinking emanates, knowledge is fully lit. When knowledge is lit, economy flourishes. So I think we will hold that as we move through the day. So you're going to get a lot of information, data, and statistics, but I wanted to just ground us, and I'm sure that Ed and others will ground us much more in what this picture looks like. But in California, arts and cultural production are just significant contributors to our economy, and they fuel our collective well-being. Advances in technology, as we just heard, new ways of working, rising inequity, climate change, and social and political shifts bring a kind of uncertainty and also possibility to our current and future ways of working. And understanding the challenges and opportunities facing our creative workforce will help us shape a vital future for all Californians. So these statistics, the National Assembly of State Arts Agencies tell us that in 2022, arts and cultural production in California accounted for 8% of the state's total economy, $2.9 billion in total value added to the economy, and nearly 850,000 jobs. And this compares to 5.1 million jobs for the United States as a whole. So it's a big part of who we are in the state of California. So art works. The critical societal problems we face are human problems, and they can't be solved by science and technology alone. Artists are visionaries, researchers, and makers who are essential to reimagining societal systems because they have the capacity to imagine different ways of being. Artists are driving transformation in our classrooms, in health centers, in neighborhoods and communities across the country. And there's just a significant and increased demand for working with artists across the sector. We're really at a remarkable place. There is momentum, and it's really awaiting a catalytic force. And I think California can really be that force. So I want to talk a little bit about what we've learned from a few projects and programs that really were about investing in the arts. So we're going to talk about guaranteed basic income for artists, the Comprehensive Employment and Training Act, and the Creative Core, the California Creative Core. So guaranteed basic income for artists. The Guaranteed Income for Artists initiatives of Creatives Rebuild New York is the one that I'm focusing on here. And the reason for that is because it was the largest of its kind. Creative Rebuild New York provided regular, no strings attached cash payments of $1,000 a month for 18 consecutive months to 2,400 artists across the state of New York. And I'll just point out here that there were 22,000 applicants for this program. So the demand, and as you can see here, the precarity of artists and the demand for this kind of stable or secure program is a really important thing to take into account. At the same time that Creatives Rebuild New York were doing this program, I was the CEO at Yerba Buena Center for the Arts in San Francisco, where we were also executing a guaranteed income program for 130 artists in San Francisco, also $1,000 a month for 18 months. And here you'll see from CRNY the data that really talks about artists reporting being vulnerable to health issues, being having unmanageable debt, no financial safety net whatsoever, unstable, unpredictable income, and many needing to provide or to be subscribing to public benefits programs. What I want to say here, though, and what I think about all the time, is pilots like this show us something that I don't think we think about. And that is two things. One, the ripple of return on the investment in artists. If you invest in an artist, she will invest tenfold in her community. And the second thing that I think about that I think is quite profound is what are we losing in our economy, in our creative lives as people, if we are not investing fully in artists and they cannot realize their full capacity? What is lost? And so before going to the next slide, I'll just say that in both of these programs and in others that were happening across the country at the time, artists would tell us repeatedly they were able to attend to a health issue they could not attend to. One artist told me that she was able to fix her car, and that enabled her more mobility for employment opportunities. Many artists told me they were able to invest in other artists. They started new arts organizations, and they invested in their communities. So again, that ripple of return is incredible if we think about it. So this one from a while ago, I wanted to talk about because not long ago, I moderated a panel discussion for a convening called Forgotten Federal Art Legacies, the New Deal from CETA to San Francisco, or from the New Deal to CETA in San Francisco. Our focus on the panel was on CETA, the Comprehensive Employment and Training Act, which many of you probably know was a federal program that provided millions of jobs across the country, including more than 10,000 artist jobs and an additional 10,000 or so art support jobs. We were focusing on how CETA supported the neighborhood arts programs and artists in the city of San Francisco. And while I was moderating this panel, which included two San Francisco giants, Radessa Jones and Susan Cervantes, I was reminded of the incredible return on investment that this program had in San Francisco. So employing hundreds of artists at a very modest income to do their work as artists in community resulted in incredible change, a thriving arts ecosystem, many arts organizations that still exist today. So if not for CETA, we would not have the legacy of Ruth Asawa's Alvarado Arts Workshop and now the Ruth Asawa School for the Arts. We would not have Susan Cervantes' Persida Eyes Mural Arts Project and more than 800 murals in the city of San Francisco alone. And we would not have the Medea Project, Theater for Incarcerated Women, working across the globe, and Cultural Odyssey in San Francisco. And those are just a few examples. So again, the idea of investing in an artist, she creates an organization. That organization creates jobs. Those jobs have a ripple effect in the community, and those organizations form San Francisco's very remarkable arts ecosystem. Excuse me. And then finally, the San Francisco Creative Core and the California Creative Core. And I wanted to pause here. Both of these projects came to be kind of, at least in idea, during the pandemic. They were really formed to employ artists in support of community health and well-being. And what felt really important, as was mentioned, I had the great honor of serving on Governor Newsom's Jobs and Business Recovery Task Force. And there was a moment when, you all may remember, hospital beds were overflowing, people weren't wearing masks. We didn't know what we were dealing with. But I knew from data that was collected by the University of Florida's Center for Art and Medicine, I knew what artists did to help shift public sentiment and behavior during the Ebola crisis. I knew that a radio show reached people in their communities in their own ways in order for them to gain trust in what the government was telling them. And because I knew that, I was able to capture the attention of Governor Newsom and his team and to suggest that artists across the state of California are already doing this work. Artists are working in communities, providing education, engaging people in their own cultural traditions, and helping people understand what it means to have a sense of collective well-being, to take care of one another, and to understand our interdependence. And so we were able to do a program in San Francisco that then launched through the California Arts Council across the state of California. And this really inspired a way of thinking about the WPA to CETA, to what it can look like when we think about guaranteed income, creative core, employing artists in service of their communities. So what I really want to do and hope to help you with as you move through these next, today and tomorrow, is to paint a picture of what the world might look like with artists working everywhere, fully realizing their capacity. We know from the data that art drives social cohesion and belonging, that engagement in art activities is good for you. Even 20 minutes a day of some kind of creative act will help you live a longer life. The data is in. And we also know that artists are not able to realize their full capacities. As was said, some are driving Uber, some are making coffee. What would happen if we in California understood and valued this workforce And we did that in a way that was about integrating art into the infrastructure of our lives, art everywhere. And by that, I definitely mean world-class art in our galleries and our museums, art from all over the world on our stages and in every community. And I also mean art in our classrooms, art in our neighborhood, art in service of the collective good. Because we know that art drives health and well-being, because we know that young people engaging with the arts early and often learn better, do better, and feel better. And because we know that art can help change minds, shift hearts, and help us engage with the things that cannot be solved by science and technology alone. So we're seeing a growing demand for art and health, art and education, art and climate change. We'd love to see a continued effort to train people. Some of those people will be making work in galleries. Some of those people will be performing on our stages, in our films. They'll be making music. They'll be writing poetry. Some of them will be working in hospitals and community centers, in classrooms and schools. And some of them will be working with our scientists and our technologists to help solve the problems that we face. That's really the future that we should try to imagine for our state here in California and to model that future for the rest of the country. And with that, I think I efficiently beat my time, and thank you.